Mr. Jagdeep Chhokkar of the Association for Democratic Reform. Sir, thank you very much for speaking to India today. We're talking about the electoral bonds and the fact that this petition has been pending since 2015, and now once again the matter has been adjourned to December 6th. But what is also important is that the Solicitor General for the Centre has very clearly made a statement before the court that the EB system is completely transparent. So how do you see this development and the stand of the government on this issue?
You see, I'm afraid to say that the statement of the Solicitor General is not correct. The bonds are nowhere near transparent. The Finance Minister himself said the same day that he introduced the bonds, that bonds will be anonymous. Incorrect. The bonds are in the nature of bearer bonds. The identity of the donor is anonymous. If the identity of the donor is anonymous, how can anyone say that the bonds are transparent? I have been saying and writing since that very day, the day after the budget was presented and the electoral bond scheme was passed, that I am looking for a dictionary which says that transparency and anonymity are the same thing, whereas they are the opposites of each other. So the Finance Minister says they are anonymous, the Solicitor General says they are transparent. It will be up to the court to decide who is right. When we explain to the court that only the State Bank of India, the issuing authority, the only issuing authority, knows the identity of the donor. And they are not supposed to reveal this identity to anyone unless there is a court order. And given the situation in which we live, anything that is known to the State Bank of India is obviously known to the Government of India. Okay. And once it is known to the Ministry of Finance, it is known to the Finance Minister, whoever that may be. And therefore, it is known to the party to which the Finance Minister belongs. Therefore, the party in power knows who is the donor, not only to the party in power, but to other parties also. So in this case, the situation is that the party in power knows who is getting electoral bonds, how much, and who is giving them. But nobody else, no other political party, no citizen. Our concern is not that much with political parties. Our concern is that citizens don't know who is giving how much.
Where the money is going.
So they are not.
So one of the arguments that was placed before the court today by your counsel, Mr. Prashant Bhushan, and by Mr. Kapil Sibal also, is that electoral bonds are issued every time there is a election coming up. And with now we are expecting the Election Commission to make an announcement about the Himachal elections, about the Gujarat elections. Do you see the same pattern? Because we've had EBs in place since 2018. There have been now 20 years of issuance of electoral bonds. How exactly do you see the way electoral bonds have worked in the last several years and the way the information about the electoral bonds has come so far?
You see, the pattern is very clear. In the first year, 95% of the electoral bonds that were encashed were encashed by the ruling party at the center. 95%. Today, the figure is somewhere around 75 to 80% of the electoral bonds which are encashed by the political party in power at the center and in several states. The remaining 25 to 20% goes to another set of parties and it is distributed among them. So the electoral bonds money is overwhelmingly flowing into the coffers of the ruling party. And this is likely to be the pattern regardless of which party is in power. Because electoral bonds are designed that way, as I explained in my earlier comment, that the party in power knows who is buying electoral bonds. And since it is a bearer instrument, before the buyer can give it to another party, it is apprehended and suspected by people that the buyer gets a phone call from the ruling party saying, I believe you have bought electoral bonds worth XYZ crores. Whom are you giving it to? And the signal is obvious. So ruling party has an overwhelming financial advantage in the electoral bonds. this is not the only problem. There are many other problems, but this is what you asked me, that therefore I'm responding.
So, if you could just explain to us then, what are the other big problems that you see with the electoral bond system, apart from the fact that, apart from the apprehension that it is the ruling party which could take undue advantage of the system?
You see, another major problem is that the Companies Act has been amended. Earlier, there was a limit that for corporate donations to political party, a company could not donate more than 7.5% of its profits. Profits over the last 3 years. This limit of 7.5% has been totally removed. So now a company can donate 100% of its profits, and it can also donate money even if it's not making profits.
Okay.
Number two, there was another provision in the Companies Act that any company which donates any money to a political party, they will have to disclose the name of the party and the amount donated in their financial statements. This requirement has also been removed. So now a company only shows donations made to political party through electoral bonds, 100 crores. Which party? We don't know. Political parties say in their financial statements, donations received through electoral bonds, 200 crores. Who has given them? Nobody knows. That much for transparency, and that much for removing all such limits. Number two, with a retrospective amendment in the foreign contribution regulations, that the definition of a foreign source has been
amended by the government. And this is an issue that is also before the court, sir, and Mr. Bhushan.
I know it has a bearing on the electoral bond. That's what I am telling you. The definition of a foreign source has been diluted. Now, any foreign company can set up a subsidiary in India, and that subsidiary may not do any business at all, but it can donate money to political parties through electoral bonds.
So you're saying all of these have allowed for a corporate control or corporate influence on government policies? That's what your argument
absolutely. In addition to that, through these subsidiaries of foreign companies, we would not know whether it is a genuine company or it is money related to the armament industry, or it is money related to drugs, or money related to whatever else. Even more, the Election Commission and the Reserve Bank of India, two constitutional institutions, had objected to the electoral bond scheme when their views were sought. This was not made public, it was brought out through RTI subsequently.
So, but now what has been the stand of the EC and the RBI in this case? Have they, because this case is now 7 years old, it has now finally come up, and now hopefully in December it will be heard. There has been no hearing whatsoever since 2019. So what has been the stand of these constitutional bodies? What has been the stand of the EC or the RBI or the government?
The initial affidavit given by the Election Commission was quite clearly not in favor of electoral bonds. But in the hearings in the Supreme Court, the Election Commission seemed to be wavering a little, trying to modify its stand. But those hearings never came to any conclusion. And therefore, we don't really know what will be the stance of the Election Commission, the RBI at this point in time. We will know when the hearings start happening.
All right, sir. So now what are you hoping for from the December 6th hearing? Because today we saw a very clear statement from the Attorney General and the Solicitor General that it is quite likely that even on 6th December, there may or may not be a hearing.
Well, you are right. You heard the hearing as well as I did. The Solicitor General and the Attorney General wanted the hearing to be scheduled for January next year. But at the insistence of our lawyers, it has been brought to December 6th. Once again, what happens on December 6th is very difficult to predict. It is impossible to predict. But let us see what happens, and one can only hope for the best.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Chhokkar, for speaking to India Today in such detail. Thank you very much for joining us on this issue.